Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in, welcome on, and welcome to a very special episode of the Direct Podcast. Everything you need to know about the universes you love. Today, we are reviewing Joker 2, Folie à Deux. I'm your host, Matt Roembke, and I'm joined, as always, of my friend and co-host, senior editor of the Direct.com and box office correspondent, Mr. David Thompson. David, what up, man?
What's up, brother? It is finally time. Our DC movie of the year is here. After a long drought in 2024, I think, right? Yeah, there hasn't been anything. 2023 was kind of the closing chapter of that DCEU. Now we're kind of in this Elseworld story. Joker 2, long awaited, highly anticipated, at least by me. I really enjoyed the first
Mm-hmm.
movie, and yeah, I mean, this is a film that it's going to be interesting today. We're recording it after the weekend. The dust is settling a little bit in terms of like the fan reactions, obviously the box office flop that we discussed on yesterday's episode of the podcast. And in general, it's going to be fun to talk about. I think at the end of the day, like there's so much to dig into, there's so much to talk about, related to this story. And I'm happy to be here, regardless of if I thought it was good or not.
I'm happy to have you here, David. It's a good time. It's a good time to be talking about the universes you love. Will 2024 go down as the worst comic book movie year of all time? I'm not saying Marvel Studios only makes good movies. Obviously, they've made a few stinkers in the past. But Dead only one movie for Marvel Studios this year. That was a big talking point going into the year. Deadpool and Wolverine. There are five comic book movies being released in the year of our Lord Taylor Swift, 2024. Madam Web, Deadpool and Wolverine, Joker, Venom: The Last Dance comes out in a couple weeks, and then
Mm.
Kraven the Hunter.
Yeah.
It has the potential to be a true one for four situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Sony is really murkying the waters for
I
sure.
mean, that's
Um,
three. That's
yeah,
insane.
three in a year with no plans of any future ones, at least officially. Which will be really interesting to see like how that develops because I've been of the mindset that Craven might kill the Sony Spider-Man universe. And just the fact that Venom's going to be done, I'm not sure what else they have to tell. So
Um,
maybe, at the end of the day, maybe you're right. It might be looked back as, at one of the worst ever, but it also could be maybe a turning point, and kind of trajectory us up to 2025, which is right now expected to be a pretty big year.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the expectations will be low, which is nice. That's kind of a good place to be in movies or sports. You love it when nobody thinks you're going to win. Today
Right.
we are talking about Joker 2, the Todd Phillips sequel to the smash hit polarizing cult classic that is Joker in 2019. Yesterday on the proper podcast, we broke down the box office situation, the reactions, the critic score, all of those things. It's bad. And in summation, it is just bad. But make sure to go listen to that if you want more in-depth thoughts on the actual results of Joker 2. Here, we'll be breaking down what our thoughts were for the movie. And I think we just dive right into it. Your starting lineup for Joker 2: Joaquin Phoenix as Arthur Fleck, Lady Gaga as Lee Quinzel, Brendan Gleeson as Jackie Sullivan, the most Brendan Gleeson name you could ever give somebody. Catherine Keener looking fantastic as Marion Stewart, Zazie Beetz as Sophie Dumond, Stephen Coogan as Patty Myers, Harry Lottie as Harvey Dent, Lee Gill as Mr. Gary Puddles, and Bill Smitrovic as Judge Herman Rothwax, which, how did we never hear that name? Herman Rothwax. I mean,
Right.
come on. These are Gotham ass names, dude.
Yep.
Jackie Sullivan and Herman Rothwax. That's incredible.
Gary
I love
Puddles.
that. Is that the top play of the movie? We shall see. David Thompson, one of your most anticipated movies of the year.
Yes.
I need to look it up, but I'm pretty sure you took it in the hype draft. This is a big DC tentpole for the year 2024. Your overall thoughts on Joker 2?
Yeah, my overall thoughts are really mixed. I think the first thing I want to say about the movie is that I do not think it is as bad as people are making it out to be. Now, it
Mm.
disappointed me in a few ways. I think the main thing after watching the film, like one of the first things I said and just thought was like that movie did not need to happen. And I think going into the film and going into the production and kind of like how things moved, I always just sort of bought into the fact that okay, Lady Gaga's here. They're gonna tell an interesting story. It's gonna be like adding this Lee character, this Harley Quinn kind of like variant, if you will, and in general like a Joker variant too. It's a totally different story. Joker 1 really can just stand on its own, in my opinion. And I think they missed some opportunities here. I think they kind of I get the story they were telling, which we'll dive into a lot more in spoiler section. And I don't think the movie's poorly made. It looks really good. The sound is awesome. Like we saw it in a nice, like kind of, big, deluxe theater and stuff. And like the music's awesome. The sound, design is great, I thought. Um, but it's not the most, I mean, Joker 1 wasn't very fun to watch. But there was something there to me, at least where there's like some fun to be had, I guess. Even then, not as much as some of these other comic book movies that we talked about. This one's like that, I think, even turned up, where it's like it's really not like an enjoyable watch. Like, I wanted to go back and dive deeper into Joker when that first came out and go see it again in theaters, and I did. This one I don't. This one I'm like, all right, I got what they were trying to say. I can appreciate some aspects of it, but I can also look at it and say, wow, like this wasn't at the end of the day, it didn't need to happen. This movie did not need to happen. It feels very epilogue to me. It doesn't feel like the next chapter of anything. It just feels like what's the aftermath of that first movie? And here that is. And here's like a very interesting direction for what it is. And I think at the end of the day, this movie's not really there to entertain in so many ways. I feel like the trailer showed us what's going to be an entertaining film. And this movie to me has a specific point it wants to make about Arthur Fleck and that character and mental illness. And that's about it. And I think like there's some positivity there in the sense of like, okay, I get what the story is trying to say. I get what like Todd Phillips is trying to say to us, but does that make it a good, entertaining movie? Not quite to me. It's like but the thing is like I say not quite, but I also think the cinema score is too low. I think D's insane compared to like that's the lowest ever. Like no, I think this movie's of a higher quality than like a Madam Web. Like it's tomatoes. It's apples and oranges. I should say. These kinds of movies. I almost said tomato tomato.
What was the other end of tomato is
Yeah.
what I'm gonna ask. It's tomatoes and peaches, man. What are you gonna
Well,
do?
exactly. It's fall, man. By the way, I woke up this morning. It's sub 60 degrees outside, and I was like,
Oh
"What is
yeah.
happening?"
43 outside right now.
Wow, nice.
Mm.
Anywho, yeah, it's apples and oranges. I just think like this is like getting way ahead, but like thinking you brought up the whole 2024 thing. It's like the quality standard of this film is still very high to me. Like in terms of just like general filmmaking, if you're going to like film school, that kind of thing, than like a Madam Web, it's just different, right? In Madam Web, you can laugh at it, and this is nothing to laugh at, like you're just like, like I don't feel good about myself, and I'm gonna walk out of this theater and be like, that was kind of disappointing. Matt, what were your thoughts?
That's entertainment. It's a good song. I'm glad they played the original in the
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
Um, Movies or sports, you can have everything going for you on paper, and this movie did. This movie had it all. It had the hype, it had the momentum, with it being a short comic book here. Only 5 movies releasing, three of them Sony.
Yeah.
It had the IP. It had the IP, not just Batman, but Joker. Like that's where it's at.
Hmm.
It had the talent, it had the director, it had the budget, it had all those things. And then you get into the actual movie. Not only can you have it all right on paper, you can have the performances that you want. Joaquin Phoenix, excellent performance. Lady Gaga in moments, excellent performance. Brendan Gleeson, really great.
Yeah, he was great.
Like you said, the score, amazing. The music choices, like the songs they chose, all great songs. The soundtrack's probably pretty great. The production design, sets, costumes, makeup, off the charts good. The cinematography, some of the best we've ever seen in a comic book movie. Gorgeous film. You can have all of that going for you. But when the person calling the plays is calling all the wrong plays and making all the wrong choices when it comes to actually setting things in motion, making decisions, choosing to do this, then, and that there, when that goes wrong, all of that goes out the window. No matter what kind of roster, talent, culture, quality, like you said,
Mm.
that you have, if you're not calling the right plays, if you're making all the wrong choices, it does not matter. This is the definition to me of a swing and a miss. And one more thing this movie had and has that I think is still wild, like you said, it has a plot, it has a message that diehard defenders of this movie can point to and look at me and you in the face, as they often do, and say, "Oh, you didn't like it? You just don't get it. You're just not smart enough to understand what Todd Phillips was trying to say." No, no, no. I get it. I understand. That doesn't make it good.
Right.
I think that if you're going to try to do this specific message that I believe he was trying to say, one, you got to say it well, which I don't think he did. And two, you need to find a way to get it across in something that's either engaging, entertaining, or interesting, of which none of that is in this movie, in my opinion. Like I said, the performances are great. The production design is incredible. The cinematography will probably be it's probably my best looking movie of the year outside of Dune 2, right?
Yeah.
Like
Dude.
it's a gorgeous movie. I was so distracted by every single decision that was made as far as what the scenes were, the character decisions at every single point, and the choices to integrate the musical aspect the way he did. This
Yeah.
movie is not lesser than because it's a musical. This movie's lesser than because it doesn't commit to being a musical. And not only and I'm stealing this from friend of the show, Jeff G. Lowe from Barstool Sports. Not only does this movie not commit to being a musical, it doesn't commit to being anything.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
just no commitment to the actual tone or vehicle, for lack of a better word, of this movie. And then you get to the end, and when you're not engaged throughout and you have an ending the way this movie ends, it's one of the worst things a movie can be, especially if it's a comic book movie, especially if it's a blockbuster, unsatisfying. Vince McMahon, which, okay, I'm gonna do the Michael Scott thing. Liam Crowley says that Vince McMahon says that the main event's the most important thing because that's the only thing people talk about when they're walking out of the building.
Right.
When the ending is unsatisfying and you also didn't have a very engaging movie on top of it, it's a stinker. I
Yeah.
don't think this is better than Madam Web. I think it's better made than Madam Web,
Mm.
absolutely. But I do think that when you're below the average point, like when a movie's just okay and worse, I think it's okay to play the game of both these movies are bad, but at least I had fun with Madam Web. At
Mm.
least I had fun laughing at Madam Web. This, I didn't. People laughed in my theater, plenty, but not for
Right.
the right reasons. And then I get to the end of it, and I'm just kind of bummed that I watched this. And
Mm.
that's a super negative take, even though, like I said, so many great things in this movie. But at the end of the day, if the play call is not there, I'm not sure it matters.
Yeah.
Um,
I
that's
mean,
just kind
it's
of where I'm at.
yeah. No, definitely. I think it's a really strong point. I will say, like, I definitely think this is better than Madam Web just because I think maybe I just can get more entertainment value out of like just even the performances,
Sure.
like it's just to me, it's just it is a I think yes, the storytelling, the plot isn't awesome. And like obviously there's issues with the film, and I don't think it's a very good movie. It really let me down. But I think like it's a weird thing, right? Because like that Madam Web film is just like egregiously bad.
Yeah.
Like it is egregious to me. That movie is genuinely like egregiously bad. Like I would never want to watch it again. I there was some fun, I guess, but there really wasn't any fun. Like it was like the performances were awful, the dialogue was terrible.
The
In
Pepsi
this,
can, David.
huh?
Remember the Pepsi can? Guy
I
the
remember
Pepsi
the
was
Pepsi
driving.
can. Yeah, man. God. And I guess that movie also pissed me off because of like the Spider-Man stuff where it's
Spider-Man,
like it
sure.
all just makes me mad. It's just like, it makes my blood boil. This so much
As
is
it
like
should.
my before we get into spoilers, my bottom line, if you haven't seen this movie, a lot of people didn't see the movie, so people might check out after this part of the podcast. It doesn't need to exist. Like I would just go watch Joker 1 again if you want to get back with these characters. Because the other thing too, in terms of the performances, I think Joaquin Phoenix is like a straight line great in the movie. There's nothing more to the performance though. Like
Yeah.
he is better in the first movie because the first movie he really has a true like dynamic performance and character arc. In this one, you get what you get. Not what you deserve, but you get what you get.
Yeah.
I would say with Arthur Fleck in this film. And there are some moments,
Mark.
we'll talk about it later in the courtroom. There are some moments when Joaquin Phoenix gets to kind of let loose and have fun. But not enough, man. Not enough. And yeah, there's like we've been teasing, there's gonna be a lot to discuss in the spoiler section of today's review.
Absolutely. And that reminded me of one other thing. I know we do this, but it's also a really bad sequel. Like
Mm,
you say, go watch Joker 1 again. It's a bad sequel.
really bad
It just,
sequel.
I'm not gonna say it lessens Joker just because like you said, this felt like it was forced to be made kind of thing, which hey, Todd Phillips, Joaquin Phoenix, go get your money. You know what I mean? Do you?
Yeah,
Um, but it's definitely is a bad follow-up to what was an interesting ending to Joker. As just in terms of like where we ended with that movie and like where we end with this movie,
yeah,
we went down. I feel like nothing
right.
nothing even plateaued. It just went down. It reverted.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, and we should get into spoilers here
Let's
because
do it.
let's do it. Because just before we do that, that that was Todd Phillips did that on purpose. You could totally tell. Like the entire film, you could tell. I'm like, okay, like this is the direction of the movie. And then at a certain point, you really know. Like near the end, it's like this is the point of the film. And it's like it's very meta. It's very ironic, especially looking at like how well it's performing right now.
We're gonna dive into that right now. But first, let's bring in our third chair, where our guy, our boy, our Batman, Michael Keaton, is about to announce spoilers in a scene where he's talking to the Joker. You see, it's all connected. You see what I did there, ladies and
It's
gentlemen?
great.
Michael Keaton with spoilers.
Lights out! Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
All right, David Thompson. We're gonna
Let's
get
do
into
it.
winners. We're gonna get into MVP, LVP, top plays. That point right there, I
We
think
might.
this
We'll see. I'm not
we
sure how
could be one
today's
of
gonna
those.
go. Yeah.
It could be one of those where we just kind of talk about it. I don't know if I love or hate those. When we divulge from any sort of structure,
Yeah.
we're chatting. It's fun, but this is not going to be one of those fun ones.
No. Different. Yeah.
I think coming out of the theater, everybody feels a certain way, whatever. How you feel about the movie right out of the theater, I think, is what your opinion on the movie should be. Baseline, right?
Sure.
Obviously, reactions come out. People point things out to you that maybe wasn't clear in the viewing experience. I'm just not smart enough to get it. The talking point, I think, as far as the reaction, and I knew walking out of the theater there were going to be people who would say, if you didn't like it, you just didn't get it, which is a very
Hmm.
Snyder cult thing to say. Those movies also look incredible, by the way.
That's true.
Put that out there. Everybody who's defending this movie is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point, or if you think or have heard something different.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, Everybody's saying that Todd Phillips, when he made that first Joker movie, showing what this psycho murderer guy turned into by the end of that movie, from humble beginnings as Arthur Fleck, and how mental illness drives to this. The reaction from the fans, half of them at least, were, wow, love this Joker dude. He's the wallpaper on computers. He's posters in dorm rooms.
Hmm.
Everybody loves Joker. And that is not what Todd Phillips wanted from that movie. He's an anti-hero. No, he's an anti. He just wants people to, was meant to be a villain. People were celebrating him. So the thought is that this movie, Joker 2, was a slap in the face to not only Warner Brothers, but the fans of the first movie that celebrated Joker
Right.
to somewhat poke fun at, meta criticize the celebration of these murderers, your Ted Bundys, your Evan Peters,
Dahmer.
Dahmer, the Netflix stuff, right? That turns these murders into celebrities,
Right.
and to show how negative and bad that is. That is that kind of where we're at? Is that kind of the baseline meta
Yeah,
of it all? Like this is
basically.
basically an anti-movie.
And I mean, yeah, anti-movie and I mean, deep spoilers like just the break in Arthur and Joker. And that's the whole from the very beginning of the movie. You realize it because that's the attorney's case. Is like it's dual personalities, right? And
Well,
then
the
by the
cartoon,
end, right, in
me
the
and my
cartoon.
shadow.
Yeah. And then by the end, we're getting Arthur up there being like there is no Joker, and like and seeing Lee and his like his followers or his supporters just walk out of the courtroom. It's all very to me that it was I think it was overtly what you were just saying. It was obvious like what they were trying to say about this
Hmm.
character. Like there is no Joker. This is not who you think it is in the sense of like what does the Joker represent in this world? The smile at the end of the first film and like
Just the
what
best.
yeah, like in that. And by the way, like now that we're here, and because I don't, some of my thoughts, I don't know where they fit into our normal points, of
Go for it.
MVP, LVP. The first movie, I rewatched it before going to see this one, and I really enjoy that movie. I think it's a great film. And part of the reason I do is because, and I remember in the moment, it's fun to go back and rewatch because of all the unreliable narration and all the unreliable storytelling. And you literally, I mean, so when you first watch the movie, you're just like, oh shit, the Zazie Beetz stuff was all fake. Like he made all that up. Like what a fun little twist, you know? Then you go back and rewatch the film and you don't know what's real and what's not. There is so much in that movie. And I thought it was so clever for Todd Phillips in that film to like show this where it's like you really don't even know what's happening. You don't know what's in his head and what's not. And that aspect that I loved so much of the first one is completely just it's missing in this. There is that like dream element where you don't know really what's happening, and people even say at the end of the film they don't know if like Lee might have actually been dead and that wasn't actually her. Like he was just like hallucinating that on the stairwell. I don't know. It's just fan theories. But
That's filling in, yeah.
in this film, we just get 2 years later, Arthur's in jail, like, and we're just like, all right. I don't know. For me, it's like I wish there was like more to it. I guess, and like I understand kind of like the dire situation of the film and like what they're trying to say, and the police brutality of it all, just like how they're treated in these facilities, stuff like that. Like I totally get it. Um, it just to me was missing the like back to square one, the entertainment value of the first one for me, where it's like this one just wasn't as clever, and even like the dream sequences where it is Harley and Joker, it was pure dream sequence. There was nothing really else there. And like even then I was having some fun kind of, but there was always just like a shroud of uncomfortable like uncertainty to the movie where you're like, like everything that's happening that could possibly be positive is going to turn on him, and it leads to a like you said, like a sad ending. And even like one of my favorite parts was, learning that Lee had lied to Arthur and like kind of that little mini twist. It was pretty good. But it wasn't anything crazy, right? Like
They
it
just didn't
was,
do anything with it.
yeah, they didn't do anything with it. They in general, I don't want to. We got to get to our stuff here, but like in general, like Lee and Lady Gaga, all of that was a subplot to the film, in my opinion. It wasn't
Yeah.
the main thing. The only thing if you just watch this film, all you have to know is just is just Arthur's journey, and that's the point of the movie, I suppose. But that's all that really matters. Like there's not you mentioned earlier, like calling the plays and how it's all wrong. to me, take that a step further, it's like you use only a fourth of the playbook that you had at your disposal. You
Mhm.
know, you could have used the whole thing. You could have made the story a lot more interesting, but you're just like tightened it a little bit too much, in my opinion, and used characters just to further Arthur's plot, which I guess is the point of the movie. You know, that you could argue that we're not smart enough, Matt, but like it just didn't make for, I think, a great product in the end.
You see, David, you'll understand. When they carried him down from the rubble, his arms were spread out because he's Jesus. You get it?
Oh gosh,
He's
please.
Jesus.
Uh,
Um, I still love it. See, I get again on paper, right? This that if that is the direction Todd Phillips took, which he's radio silent right now. If this is the direction Todd Phillips took, is essentially to poke fun at the people who got the wrong message from the first movie, and he wanted to almost showcase how, and it's gonna sound insulting, how dumb those people are for celebrating Joker, which is, I feel like that's kind of what this Harley character and all these super fans were meant to be. Look how stupid you look,
yeah,
being so obsessed with this killer. Um,
right.
I think that
And only
one,
caring, by the way, like Lee's specifically, her entire purpose in the movie is to show what that super fan really is,
right,
where she doesn't even care about Arthur himself. She doesn't
right,
care about what's happening in here. She only cares about the Joker moniker and what
right,
Joker represents,
right.
and like you learn that obviously by the end of the movie.
Celebrity. It's all about celebrity, making the
Celebrity,
5 minutes of fame. Here's my
symbol,
thing.
image. Yeah.
Here's my thing. The music stuff, I think, was a bad vehicle to do that with, because at the end of the day, like you said, it didn't have any weaving with the plot. It felt hyper random and unnecessary, which made it distracting. That's one thing. That's a totally separate thing.
Yes.
Strip that away, this meta anti-movie he's making. I just feel like you spent the entire movie making Lady Gaga and Arthur Fleck kind of like heroes of this. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
felt like I was mad the whole movie. Like he's doubling, like he's almost leaning into it. Like, oh wow, we should be celebrating this guy. Look how
Hmm.
awesome. And the big twist is not anything interesting. It's just when he says he's not Joker, she leaves.
Right.
And that is such a simple point to make in what felt like something that's way more in your face about like, wow, we should make these people heroes. I just feel like he missed on making that anti-movie point. Also,
Yeah.
pretty pretentious, I think. If you're gonna have this incredibly divisive, artsy movie in the Joker, which was just that. People loved it for the message that I think Todd Phillips was trying to say. People loved it for the wrong reasons. Also, a lot of people didn't like it because it was seemingly celebrating a murderer, right? Like
Yeah.
it had depth and divisiveness, and it was something to talk about. It felt like Todd Phillips got stuck on the fact that people were celebrating the Joker
Mm.
and had to explain his joke. You know what I mean? Like it
Right.
felt like he had to defend himself with this movie, and his decision to defend himself is just a fuck you. And
Well,
that, if anybody's been on the internet,
yeah.
as soon as you start, doing that kind of defense, you've kind of lost. I understand he didn't want to make this movie. I get
Yeah.
that. Don't make the movie then, man. Like, and if you're going to do something different,
Yeah.
like why does it have to be? Because at the end of the day, we're stuck with a bad movie. That's the other thing. He could have done it well. Like it could have been a more interesting way to show that. And we have an example of that recently. Killers of the Flower Moon. That's an anti-movie. At the end of that movie, it's basically, look how much of a joke this all is. Look how horrible all these people are, and look how much entertainment you just got from this horrific thing.
Right.
It's a fine movie. It's a fine movie. But like that
I
was
liked it.
a more strategic way to approach that message. This felt like he was just fucking around. And I just think that that's such a tarnish of what you were trying to say with the first one. It feels a little pretentious to me. And then you add in a lot of the musical elements and the courtroom stuff. that at the end of the day also just kind of bottoms out the watchability of it all.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. I think like just the musical stuff, because the musical stuff to me, it was just kind of there, like they didn't, and especially it was the fact that they didn't rely on it too much, but I feel like they didn't really put too much of a spotlight on it either. Like it wasn't like this like, overwhelmingly musical film, it was just like here and there, and like the way they would when it wasn't a dream sequence and they were just like mumbling, I mean, you get Lady Gaga to sing and she's just like
That's
whispering.
entertainment.
And it's like I kind of get what the point is, I suppose, but it's like it just wasn't what we were. I mean, maybe not promised is the right word, but feels like not what we were promised. Like going
That's
into the movie,
that's the right take.
going into the year, Joaquin Phoenix can sing. Like Arthur Fleck's voice when he's all like shriveled up, that's not Joaquin Phoenix's actual like singing voice. He can actually sing. Dude was Johnny Cash. But anyway, like Lady Gaga, of
Johnny,
course.
Johnny Cash known as a great vocalist.
Touche.
It's funny.
But Lady Gaga is obviously phenomenal, and she barely gets to really do anything. And in general, like we should do MVPs quick just to be positive, but I'm excited for LVP as well. On MVP, to me it's really straightforward. Like I said it was a straight line earlier, kind of maybe insinuating it wasn't that awesome. Joaquin Phoenix in this role is phenomenal. I just love Joaquin Phoenix. I could watch him perform all day. It just gives so much. It's weird to say, so much life to Arthur Fleck. Like there are so many moments in this movie that he carries the scene, and I think what makes it in many ways just a better movie than what it could be. I mean, if think about it, if it was a worse actor playing Arthur Fleck, I mean, it would be a true abomination. Like
Mhm.
he really has some great nuance to his it's his performance when he's not even speaking.
Mhm.
So like for instance, like when they're talking about, the dual personality thing, when they're in the courtroom and they're talking about the abuse he suffered as a kid, just the look on his face, he's like looking down, like taking notes or whatever. Like I adore it. Like I've said this since 2019. Like I think he deserved that Academy Award. I thought it was spectacular then. I thought it was great now. He just wasn't given quite as much. But he just really can tell like the dedication, how thin he gets once again. I'm like, oh my gosh, this poor guy had to go through this again to get into this
Mhm.
mindset. And it's obviously the flipping between Arthur, the Joker persona. But even, in this movie, just like what it means to have been that Joker and now being Arthur, and like how he's dealing with that. And obviously like through like talking to the security guards, like, got a joke for us, Arthur? Like, can I get a cigarette? Not if you don't tell us a joke. And it's all these things, the back and forth of it all, the courtroom scenes later, we'll talk about it, I think, in top plays. I think that's the safest place to put that. But when he's now representing himself and he talks to Gary and, just letting himself have some fun, like, let loose a little bit, kind of be the Joker, right? So it's a wide spanning performance. And to me, it really kept me like wherein I felt the movie didn't have a lot of entertainment value. I could still be entertained by his performance specifically, just because I find it that, I don't know, intriguing at the end of the day. Like I really think that it's just like phenomenal, but it's not a phenomenal Joker. It's a phenomenal Arthur Fleck, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my main winner.
I mean, like I said earlier, the performances are really great, along with other things in this movie that are really great. It's just back to the whole play calling thing. I get so distracted by the randomness of the singing and the drollness of the courtroom and just how out of nowhere all of these little cutesy things are. And like you said about the singing, like it's not like a musical where the song helps tell the story. It's literally just random breaking out into random songs. And not to take away from your VP, I'm not trying to. I'm just saying
No,
that's
no,
why it
yeah.
made it difficult to enjoy the performances. And I
Right.
think in turn made it difficult to appreciate any sort of message that was being had because I
Yeah.
just feel like every time this movie started to pick up any sort of momentum, we were whisper singing another 70s, dive bar song.
I'm with you. Yeah,
And
I
and
mean,
it's just distracting from what I agree is a very nuanced performance from Joaquin Phoenix.
yeah, I think he just obviously he got that baseline of who the character was in the first one. It was just he was just able to continue that. And honestly, like in the MVP section, I'm curious what yours is because like I'm just picking the thing that I just enjoyed the most about the movie. And that at the end of
Yeah,
the day, it's still Joaquin Phoenix playing this character, you know? And
yeah,
like and that's a shame to me,
yeah.
because
There's
I
nothing more to it.
nothing more. It's it's a worse performance in the sense of like he wasn't given as much. I'd still rather see him in Joker 1, but it's still gonna be the best part of the film.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. Mine's gonna be the cinematography. Like I said, it's one of the better
Yeah.
looking movies I've seen this year. There were so many just great one shots from this movie that, again, ironically, would be great computer wallpapers. You know what I mean? Like, which is what the first Joker really ended up being. And like little sub MVP, co MVP, just cigarettes, just in
Oh,
general,
oh
looking
my gosh, I
awesome.
agree. Yeah, constant.
Few times have cigarettes look cooler in
Yeah.
the movie. And there's this one shot specifically during some big musical number. Not even big. None of them really that big. Imagine if Damien Chazelle got a hold of this.
By the way, I gotta
Um,
say, don't smoke cigarettes, kids, if you're listening. That just we got we can't say our winners cigarettes and then just keep pushing forward. But I agree with you.
it did look cool
They
though.
did, they did.
There's this one bit where he is Joker and he's like fading back into the spotlight and the darkness around he's creating the shadow and the spotlight behind him and the darkness is like surrounding his face and stuff, but the cigarette light is lighting up his face
Oh
just enough
yeah.
and he does his first little grin at that last little shot. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really at the end of the day, my only strong takeaway is the cinematography.
100%.
It's it's unfortunate that a lot of that came in what I felt were random and distracting scenes, but flowers are due where flowers are due. Yeah, cinematography. Just at the end of the day, whoever the cinematographer is, I think, uh, did a good audition for whatever his next role will be.
Yeah, it's Lawrence Sher. He did the obviously he did the original Joker. He's also done some other things. You'll never believe he did a 2022 DC film. Guess what it is?
The Flash,
2022.
2022 DC film, Black Adam.
Yeah,
Yeah, how about
isn't
that?
that crazy?
How
Anyway,
about that?
yeah. So who's
Um,
next?
yeah, I thought he was great.
The
That's
jail
really
stuff looked really good. Like just in general, the fact
yeah,
that they
the
they're
shots.
working in this Arkham State Hospital. Those shots could have been way more boring. I think the courtroom scenes were pretty boring shot wise. You had
Absolutely.
to like, point something out. But the jail, I think they were able to kind of like, have some Shawshank vibes with the cigarettes and stuff and talking to they're out by, they're outside doing whatever and you guys are just, shooting the shit and they're jabbering with the security guards and stuff. Like they made those shots, I think aesthetically look pretty good.
Yeah. And a few one shots as well. You know what I mean? It was some engaging looking shots and things like that. So,
Sure.
I think that's my biggest positive takeaway of that was definitely just the cinematography of it all.
Yeah.
Moving on to LVP, least valuable player. What didn't work the most for you, David Thompson?
So this I'm excited to talk about because we've kind of avoided it a little bit. Since seeing the movie, I saw with Jack Puce, shout out, Saturday night, and we walked out, similar reaction, la da. In many ways, the film has aged kind of well in my head. Certain aspects of it have aged better than maybe like I was expecting walking out of the theater. Then there's an aspect to this movie that has aged the other way. It has aged very poorly in my head, where in the moment I really wanted to like this, but I couldn't get there. And it's Lee. It's this character Lee. It's not Lady Gaga. It's Lee Quinzel. This character sucks. From an objective point of view, I think
Mhm.
anyone can say this character stinks. And I don't have to go on long about this. Just think about it. What is her character? What does she have to offer? Who is she? And like maybe that's like the quote unquote point, and we're too dumb to get it. Like I'm not accepting that with this Lee thing. We don't get anything from her. We get the little twist of, oh, she's not actually nuts. She, brought herself to the hospital. She's from a rich family. Her parents are both alive. La di da. She is only there. They got Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn in this movie to only be there to push Arthur's journey forward. That's it for his emotional journey, for this love story of sorts. Like, I mean, total. I mean,
And
you want to talk about a disappointment?
yeah.
The biggest disappointment from this film is by far how they utilize Lady Gaga. And I
Mhm.
enjoyed her. I liked seeing her on screen. Like, I don't think her performance was, I don't think she did anything wrong. I think her performance was fine. She looked great. I just hated the direction for the character. It was because
Yeah.
there was a lack of character, right? If you had like a spreadsheet of all the characters and then notes below them of like what are their what makes them their character? Who are they? Arthur would have this huge long thing, and other characters would too. Gary would have more written down than Lee.
Mr. Gary Puddle.
Genuinely, Gary would have more written down. Zazie Beetz from the first movie would have more written down. It's just upsetting.
Yeah.
It's totally upsetting, totally a waste. And that's the biggest thing of this movie where I feel bamboozled by the hype. Because I was so excited for this aspect. It's like, okay, cool. Like, I was never really in the camp. They needed to make a Joker too, but I was gonna be in it if they were. Phillips is back, Joaquin Phoenix, cool. Oh, Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. This could be interesting, right? This could be cool. Folie Deux. The title of the movie is about two, right? And it's really not, to me at least. It's really not. And it was upsetting.
Yeah, and if we want to get back to the whole meta anti-movie thing, I feel like if the message was to put a spotlight on how wrong it is to celebrate the Joker in the first movie, like many people did, this Lee character never got her comeuppance. And if she did in that, gun to the head
We
scene,
don't know.
why is she in the movie later? Like there's just she almost like amplifies that message throughout the thing because like we're watching Lady Gaga, we all like Lady Gaga, their chemistry is fantastic, and
Mhm.
and the entire movie, I'm like, I can't believe he's like doubling down on like you should be a fan of murderers kind of thing,
Mhm.
and that's really what it felt like. And then there was just no satisfying ending to that. It's like the idea was to set that up, tee it up. She loves the Joker, celebrating the Joker. Joker's a celebrity. People don't understand the Joker. This, that, the other, and then it just kind of tailed off and just went away and there was no resolving ending to that. And the bummer of that is people are going to walk away with the same message.
Mhm.
Like people are going to idolize one of the most popular DC characters of the last 20 years
Mhm.
as this Joker superfan. And there was just no resolution to that. The
No.
resolution was with Arthur Fleck and Joker, and like there was no Joker. And as soon as he said that, she left. And like that does not complete the whirlwind that you started for the other 90 minutes of this movie. And double slap in the face, they just never let her fucking sing, man. They never let Lady Gaga actually sing. And
Give me
I just
one sequence.
and,
Oh,
and and this goes to my loser, and it's just Todd Phillips with the direction of the musical aspects. Why this was a musical, I'm not really sure. But when you're given this vehicle of being a musical, you gotta commit more, or else it's gonna come off so distracting and weird, which is what this was. The half singing, the whisper singing throughout the whole thing, that's 90% of it, man. It's insane that, we have this quote unquote musical, and it's like in trailers, and this is something I love. When you have this like big upbeat happy song, but for a trailer, you drop it down 2 octaves and play it on the piano.
yeah, it's great.
And even in the trailer, say hallelujah, come on, get happy, get ready for the judgment day. That's a great trailer moment because it's like, ooh, the juxtaposition of this happy song with like this really sad, traumatic, like, scared singing voice. And
Right.
then that was the entire fucking movie. And and you
Yeah.
watch back, they come, these little random bursts into songs come at the worst possible moments,
Yep.
man. It's insane. And it's all amplified at the very end when he finds Harley on the stairs. And I understand that every time she sings the entertainment song, she's telling Arthur that it was all an act and it was all about the Joker, not you. I get that. that doesn't make the scene better when Arthur is genuinely having to confront the problem in society and he should be attempting to accept that this woman never loved him, she only loved Joker. And
Mhm.
and he should be confronting that. Instead, as he's talking, that's entertainment. Like it's so just unwatchable at points, man. And like people laughed
Yeah.
throughout my entire movie every
Yeah.
single time they started doing this stupid little whisper singing. It was just such a bad directional choice to not commit to the musical. And when you did do musical stuff, you half-assed it. And in the sense of art, sure. But like it just made the watchability so low. And when you have a divisive movie that's not super watchable, you just got a prick movie. You know,
You get what you deserve, right?
it's a bummer, dude. It's an
Yeah.
absolute bummer.
And what's funny is, speaking of all this, you get that one scene where it's the fake Harley and Joker show, and they do sing for a second, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, awesome. And then it just ends so quickly. It's just over. She like shoots him. And then, by the way, you want to know one of my favorite aside MVP were the
Uh,
flashbacks to the first movie. And I'm like, man, that movie's good.
yeah.
And I'm
Um,
like this movie's
yeah,
not so good.
it's just it was just a really bad decision making flowchart of, do we commit to a musical? Yes or no? No. How much of a musical do we do? More than you think. How like all in do we go into it? About halfway. When do we
Yeah.
put those things in? Worst possible moment.
Random.
Like
Totally just, paint on a wall, random spots.
it, and I guess the MCU comparison would be is when they have those world building moments that feel super forced, it takes away from the movie. That's what this was. But it wasn't even like an interesting world building thing. They're just randomly fucking singing, man. And it's such a bummer to me that like 25% of this movie is nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense. And then you have the courtroom
Yeah,
stuff, which is boring. And
it's
you're
boring.
left with, probably 30 to 40% of the movie with this prison, whatever. That's where most of the singing happens, which is
Yeah.
really what sucks.
And
Um,
on the courtroom really quick, like not only is it boring, but I wrote in that piece you mentioned earlier, like it's just the courtroom isn't interesting because it's just obvious. It's an
yeah.
obvious case. Like Harvey Dent's in this movie, which I didn't love the performance. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, his suit was incredible, though, dude. The
Looked good.
high-waisted three button where he puts the hand in the pocket all
Yeah,
skinny.
yeah.
Fucking awesome.
No, and he was doing his job. He was just like kind of being this Harvey Dent like prick. But the thing was, his character was so flat because it was such an obvious case. It's like this guy's guilty. And then when he changes the lawyer, like I don't know, like that left all the intrigue at the door for me. It opened up a better performance kind of for Arthur at that point. But even that was disappointing. I was expecting more from the movie. I guess maybe I wasn't because I knew the reviews going in. But while watching it, I'm like, okay, like when he takes over as himself, let's see something, and we got one really great scene in my opinion, but besides that, not really. While we're still in LVP really quick, briefly just on the ending, because I don't know when else we'd really bring this up, but I did not like the car bomb thing. Boom, explosion. Good sound design. I jumped out of my seat. Yeah.
Great sound design. I was listening to the Lights Camera Barstool review of this, and they saw somebody said they just didn't know how to like really satisfyingly end the courtroom scene, so they just blew it up. That's really
Literally,
what it
that's how
felt
it
like. We
felt
don't know what to
like.
do here. Let's just blow the courtroom up.
Yeah, because I mean, the result's the same in the end. Like Arthur ends up behind
Back in
bars.
prison.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, like he's gonna escape. Well, we're gonna see something here, and nope, he ends up in prison, getting stabbed to death by one of his like kind of like
Followers.
inmate followers. Which you knew he was gonna have some kind of role. You could kind of see him in the background of some, yeah, background of a lot of scenes, kind of just like looking, very like interested, or just like kind of like fascinated or whatever, maybe even like
Fascinating.
attracted. I wasn't quite sure. Um, Stabbed to death. This is like the controversial scene. Not only
Mhm.
stabbed to death though, which was a sad scene. It's like, golly, like I don't want to watch this, just like a brutal way to kind of go out. And then he's got that Joker laugh in the background. He's cutting the corners of his mouth. Crazy.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I care about the things I care about. I love the things I love. I understand that that moment, the big artsy, holy shit, he's Jesus moment of that is, oh, he wasn't the Joker. Oh, the Joker is, anybody can wear the mask kind of thing.
Anybody can wear the mask.
Arthur was
That's
never the
yeah.
Joker, like, wow, what a poignant point. What the hell have we been talking about for the past 90 minutes? No shit. That's what this whole movie's about, dude. That's what the
Right.
entire movie's about, and that's your big twist ending. And if you're gonna do that, fine. Stay away from Heath fucking Ledger, dude.
Right.
Stay away from the best Joker. Stay away from the best comic book movie character. Stay away from the reason this movie got a green light at any point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't touch the Heath Ledger thing. And I know it's not like, oh, he doesn't have to be Heath Ledger. It could just be another Joker that slit the sides of his mouth open. Different Jokers have different defining qualities. Jack Nicklaus has the chemical face thing where he's like chemically burned into a smile.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Mark
the,
Hamill,
the
like
actor I
animated.
hate, fucking actor I hate. What's
Oh,
his name?
Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, the damage tattoo. That's his Joker thing. Joaquin Phoenix, he's the 70s showman clown guy. Heath Ledger has the scars on his face. Stop it. Don't do that. Don't hint. Don't homage here. You know what I mean? Stay away
Yeah.
from that shit. If you're gonna try to make this big poignant point that I'm smarter than everybody and nobody understood the first movie except for me, haha, you're all stupid and you fell for this. See, now I'm off the rails. That's what I think Todd Phillips was trying to say. If you're gonna do that, don't pander with the Heath Ledger thing. It's hypocritical.
Right. I agree. And you know what's funny too is like you mentioned other iterations. Apparently the Barry Keoghan version, if he comes back, but I think Matt Reeves said this in an interview or something, was like his version is supposed to be like a I don't know if you saw that deleted scene where it is bad. Yeah. It's supposed to be like a birth defect, actually.
Yeah.
So he like was born
Different
that
thing.
way. A different
Mhm.
thing. Yeah, it was upsetting. It's because you immediately think of Heath Ledger,
How
which
do you
is
know?
not what you want to be thinking about in that moment, man. 'Cause it's like you don't want to be like, like don't take away from that. And I don't, you know, I think it was the only, besides the laugh, it was the only move they had to like really be like,
Oh,
they're
he's the Joker.
right, he's the Joker, or like there's other Jokers, and like maybe this will be the Joker that's really like, kind of more of that like version that we think there actually is, that Arthur wasn't. Arthur wasn't that guy. He was an imposter. At the end of the day, he was an imposter.
Mhm.
But yeah, I did not like the ending of this movie at all. Like
Bummer.
even going as far back as the car bomb in the courtroom, it's like it's all for naught. He talks to Harley. People think that movie that part she might even be like an hallucination or a ghost. Someone noticed, I saw on TikTok, that apparently when she walks by on the stairs, the light turns on, which is like a ghost thing, which I don't know. And like those aspects, that kind of a thing, I normally am into because that was the aspects of the first one I really got, drawn to. And I liked like watching again and like researching and be like, oh, it's like there's really a lot to dig into. Not to say there's not a lot to dig into here, but
Yeah.
poor execution through and through.
Yeah, it's swing and a miss at the end of the day. I think he tried a big swing. He tried to laugh at everybody and he tried to do it in this like clever, smart way, but he forgot to make a movie that people enjoyed watching. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
the real clever, smart way to do it would be a good movie that you're also laughing at people for. And
Exactly.
now you're just coming off as kind of pretentious. Like it just seems so, oh, you didn't get it. I'm smarter than you. And that just bums me out, man. Especially when the first movie was that divisive, creative, makes you think nobody's wrong in their interpretation of the first Joker. Because obviously, like with the blood smile, he is celebrated at the end of that movie. With, the we make celebrities out of these villains. If you want to have a negative take on that, that's fine. This movie's doing wrong. But if you want to have it's shining a spotlight on that, nobody's wrong. It's nuanced, it's deep, it's developed. This just it doesn't tarnish that, but it's almost like, wow, I'm so much smarter than everybody. Nobody understood my movie. Look how great I am.
Well,
And
yeah.
it just
Right.
seems showy.
Yeah. I
And
agree. And I think the first one too got applauded by me as well, just being like, you see these anti-hero movies where it's like, oh, it's the villains getting their movie now with the Sony universe and stuff. 2019's Joker, that was a villain, like it was, and he got his movie, and it wasn't like, oh, he's good. No, right? It was like society. I mean, we know the story of the first Joker movie, but like,
It was more like Dune 2.
yeah,
He's a
right.
bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and he is bad, like and there's no away from that. And that's just the story. Like, so like, think of it what you may. It's not a hero story. So,
Yeah. I do have one top play that I thought
oh,
was very funny. Very funny. Arthur Fleck in Love is hilarious. Um,
the sex
objectively.
scene. Yeah.
No, not the sex scene. I thought that sucked.
That was a not top play.
It
That was so
sucked.
uncomfortable.
So stupid. How did she get in there?
How'd you get in there? Why are they letting this happen? Is she
So
actually
dumb.
pregnant?
I,
No.
I think I think the I'd do anything for you line was like I had sex with the guard to get in here. But like, where'd that come from?
Maybe.
The one scene I
She's
thought was
rich though, apparently.
really, really fucking funny
Hmm.
was when they're in the courtroom and the lawyer is talking and defending Arthur, and he's just looking around for Harley. Is there something I can help you with, Mr. Fleck? Oh no, I'm just waiting on somebody. All this stuff, and she's about to get up, and Arthur writes her a note real quick, like, "Hey, look at this. Make sure you." And it's like, "Can Lee get a better seat
See
next
you
time?"
next
And
time.
Arthur goes like, "Hey,
Yeah.
make sure this happens."
Right.
Like right in the middle of her argument, he's like, "Hey, make sure we get her a better seat next
I
time."
know.
That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I
That's like yeah.
That was genuinely funny.
It was. It was really funny. That's like the childlike stuff with Arthur. They try to kind of show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like your mom's like arguing with like your dad or something, and like your little kid hands her a note, "Hey, we need more stickers."
Yeah, right. I need a Capri
Like
Sun.
some random
Yeah.
bullshit.
Yeah.
So funny.
Mine's
We did on a
the
positive though.
yeah,
Oh, you
no.
have
Well,
top play?
we haven't mentioned it. Yeah, the Gary scene, real quick.
Oh,
Um,
puddles?
Puddles.
Amazing.
Puddles? Puddles? You won't believe Puddles? He's doing the Knives Out.
Oh, Benoit, yeah. Froghorn
Yeah,
Leghorn.
yeah,
I do
exactly.
declare, Mr. Puddles. I do.
I loved that scene. That scene should have been the movie. That scene should have been the movie. Like that's my thing. That it should have been that was the perfect culmination of a few things. Number one, letting Joaquin Phoenix have fun as this like crazy person,
Hmm.
Love that. Number two, and the main thing is dealing deeply dealing with the ramifications of the first movie. I mean, this guy who's Gary played by Lee Gill,
Lee Gill. Incredible.
GOAT. I love this guy.
Incredible.
He is amazing. His performance is phenomenal. It's like because it was the whole thing where it's like, I mean, it was genuinely heartbreaking. It's like
Sad.
you were the only one that ever was nice to me, genuinely, and now I like can't sleep at night because of what you did. And it's like you think you didn't affect me, Arthur, but like you did, like I'm basically traumatized. That was so real. It was so raw, and it was a phenomenal performance. And that was the moment for me where it's like, okay, I like this is how you should be showing it. This is how you should be telling it. This is how you get Arthur to be like, wow, like now I'm realizing kind of like the mistakes I've made or just in general, like what can happen when you do something like this, the ramifications, the other side of the Lee character of like putting you on this pedestal. This is like you didn't even, you let this guy go, but look at what he's dealing with. And I also like MVP of like the courtroom stuff, Zazie Beetz character, who I've never even known her name. Sophie,
Attractive lady down the hall.
exactly, with the kid. How I loved that little detail of the movie where they made a shitty show about it or like TV movie, was it?
You think that was Joker?
Oh, that's a great way to end the podcast. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
right. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Joker 2. That is Joker 2. Yeah, that's a rough one. That's gonna sting for a little while. And like
Yeah.
we said yesterday in our box office review, I hope it doesn't happen, but if I had to put money on it, the studio is gonna learn the wrong lesson from this. And Todd Phillips, kind of your fault. there's going to be so much more hesitancy for high concept artsy comic book movies moving forward.
Mm.
You know what I mean? They're going to give directors less freedom. They're going to give creative vision more restraint, and they're going to be very particular on these big swings moving forward because of this movie. And I think it's all because Todd Phillips wanted to make sure people knew that they got the first one wrong. And I think that that's a bummer.
Yeah.
But hey, we move on. We move forward. The Penguin's great. I'm really liking Agatha all along. I think that Venom: The Last Dance
We'll be there.
will be
Can't wait.
there.
I'm
Damn it.
excited. I'm excited.
I just we'll see.
We'll
We will
see.
see. I hope I can get up for that one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm hoping to find something out of it.
Those are movies I feel like we were talking about earlier, like Madam Web. Like those movies I can just have fun with. Like they're just like
Yeah.
totally ridiculous and you can just have fun. They're normally not very long. Like Debbie Carnage was like, an hour and 20
Hour and
minutes.
45 minutes or something.
Yeah,
like that,
whatever.
My first screener ever. Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Bummer.
That's awesome.
Awesome. So 2 days from Thursday, check back in for Agatha All Along episode 5.
So yeah, 5, right?
5 review, and then next Monday, everything you need to know, as well as the Penguin. For David, I'm Matt. Until then, see you next time.